Yo, what's up guys? You got pokeaim here, and today we have a video on the Pokemon Sword and Shield move tutors that we recently got added. I actually made this video right before the DLC came out, when it was, or at least the day of the DLC coming out, but then the audio messed up. And I guess it's better now because I have a better understanding of how some of the moves work. I'm definitely not 100% sure on a few of them, just because while I have been playing with them on Pokemon Sword and Shield, I've also been using them on Showdown, and Showdown is definitely bugged. For example, Lash Out is like activating its ability when you lower your own stats with close combat, and it's appearing like a turn after. So it's like still doubled in power, or like a Leafeon used Swords Dance and Skuntank hit it with Burning Jealousy like 3-4 turns later and still burnt. So things like that are, I believe, not how the moves are supposed to be happening. So yeah, let's talk about this. Big shout out to my boy Pedro for making it look amazing, and let's get right into the normal attack we have first, which is Terrain Pulse. So it's a special attack. It's 50 base power, 100% accurate, and it says the user utilizes the power of the terrain to attack. This move's type and power changes depending on the terrain when it's used. So it's basically Weather Ball for terrain. So it becomes 100 base power in terrain. In grassy terrain, it becomes a grass type attack. In electric terrain, obviously electric terrain, it becomes electric type attack, and so on and so forth. So in terms of Pokemon that actually benefit from this, we have every single one of the Mons right there. But the ones that really come to mind is definitely, or one of the ones that really comes to mind is definitely Clawitzer. I feel like this is a pretty big thing for Clawitzer because it also has the ability Mega Launcher. So not only is it already, giving it coverage, for example, for like a Vileplume coming in, right, like in a lower tier, and you pair this thing with Indeedee, though Indeedee did get banned from the RU metagame, at least Indeedee male. You pair it with like a female Indeedee, and Vileplume tries to come in on like the Aura Sphere or the Water Pulse or whatever. And again, I'm looking at like lower tiers when these Pokemon eventually go down. It gives it a nice, psychic move that can absolutely devastate it. You take it up to the higher tiers, right? You use Indeedee up here with Clawitzer, and you're bopping Pokemon like Toxapex with your Terrain Pulse. So I think that's a pretty cool addition for it. When I look at a few of the other Mons though, Snorlax already has good coverage and it's a special move, so it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really affect it. Exploud would rather obviously be clicking Choice Specs Boom Burst when it comes down to it. I guess the Stunfisk could take advantage of it because of its mimicry ability, basically changing it to the type of terrain. So like you come in on Indeedee's Expanding Force, and I mean that's another crazy move we're about to be talking about later, but like Stunfisk comes in on terrain, it becomes that terrain, and I guess the only issue here is that they actually flipped Stunfisk attack and special attack, so it only has base 66 special attack, but it would become stab with mimicry, excuse me, I think I called it mimicry, and then your Terrain Pulse could also, be stab, and on top of that, just be a very powerful move. But outside of that, I'm like kind of failing to see the greatness of it, besides maybe like Venusaur, because Weather Ball, if you guys didn't know, is Venusaur's strongest move on neutral in the sun, right? That fire type Weather Ball is stronger than like Stab, Sludge Bomb, and Stab, Giga Drain when they're not hitting super effective targets. So maybe with something like Terrain Pulse with like Chlorophyll, Venusaur in the sun could be cool, especially if it's like in grassy terrain, because then it's an even stronger move than a move like Giga Drain in there. So outside of that, maybe in like some self terrain type of things, like if you use like a Thwackey plus like Specs Executor, and then you use it in the lower tier, I think that could actually work. Again, like using them in lower tiers as they eventually start and go down. But obviously, guys, this is just based on speculation and also using some of the Pokemon too. So I do want to know your thoughts, and feel free to call me out on something. Or also, if you're playing like lower tiers and some of these Mons are alive, at the moment they're not. Only the NFEs are in the lower tiers. Let me know. And I think Indeedee, in Indeedee's case, this doesn't really make too much of a difference. Maybe it gives it coverage, like, it already has Mystical Fire, so it doesn't need Fire type coverage. It already has Dazzling Gleam, so it doesn't really need Fairy type coverage. Especially one that is dependent on the terrain itself. And it has Hyper Voice, and it has Expanding Force, which is crazy. We're going to get into that. But yeah, I don't think it really affects it. This is probably one of the lesser used ones, or the lesser exciting ones. Like even Lucario, Aura Sphere, Dark Pulse, Flash Cannon. I mean, you even have Psychic if you actually want to deal with Toxic Effects outside of the terrain itself, not having to benefit on that. But I'm sure there'll be some super cool teams, like maybe Oranguru could use it on like Trick Room or something, and you know your opponent has like Pincurchin or they have Pincurchin. I'm thinking like in terms of doubles. I would love to see some strategies that you guys have, so please leave them down below. Let's talk about the next one we have, Burning Jealousy. Now, Burning Jealousy is cool because basically the user attacks with energy from Jealousy. This leaves all opposing Pokemon that have had their stats boosted during that turn with a burn. So the example I have for you is that someone is Dragon Dancing in front of me right there with Gyarados, right? They're Dragon Dancing with Gyarados, and I have Torkoal. Let's say I have Torkoal. Or I have Skuntank out, right? Not much I could really do. I could risk a Will-O-Wisp or whatever, or Lava Plume from Torkoal. But if I go for the Burning Jealousy, which is a special type attack, I can actually get a guaranteed burn on them if they do that. And this is pretty cool too, specifically I think in doubles, especially when Pokemon like Dragapult, like some good doubles Pokemon we have right here, right? We have Incineroar, we have Grimmsnarl, another good doubles Pokemon. Galarian Darmanitan I think is good, period. I don't know if you'd ever want to use a special move on it, but those are some mons that really come to mind when it comes to good doubles Pokemon that could abuse this. Obviously Marowak is probably going to be a good doubles mon as well. I remember doing doubles mon before. Same thing with Mimikyu, even though it wouldn't be based on that, but because they're using Dynamax and things like Max Airstream, boost your speed, Max Knuckle, boost your attack, your Max Poison move, boost your special attack. This could be pretty cool as a way of stopping things like that, especially like something going for Max Knuckle or anything like that. But yeah, in terms of like OU, the example I thought was like something trying to set up like a Dragon Dance, Dragapult trying to set up on Torkoal, or trying to set up on Ninetales. I think it's okay, specifically on Ninetales, especially if you're using like more of a support Drought Ninetales instead of like a Nasty Plot one or Specs. If you're using Nasty Plot or Specs, I don't think you want that. I think you want Flamethrower, Overheat, whatever, just to have that added power. And I also really like it on Cursula, partly because Fire-type coverage is something that was missing, right? It had Hydro Pump, it had Earth Power, it has Ice Beam, it has all these moves, but it was missing Fire-type coverage. Even though Ghost-type coverage is just incredible anyway, just using Shadow Ball and just spamming that. But being able to burn your opponent, but also just hitting them for super effective damage, I think is a big thing. Like I'm looking at like Pharaoh Seed versus Cursula type things going on. But I really do like with Torkoal. I think it's pretty cool with Skuntank as well, especially like Nasty Plot Skuntank. Why would you not use that over Flamethrower? Just because, yeah, Flamethrower is slightly stronger, but at +2, your Flamethrower is knocking out most Pokemon anyway, and you're also stopping your opponent from specifically setting up on you. Mew is obviously something that could also take advantage on this thing, even like a Calm Mind, Burning Jealousy Mew. If you're like, especially if it's like that, there's one of the Mews I really liked is Body Press Sword Power. And I think something like this could be very similar. Obviously, it only has 5 PP, which is a big thing when it comes to this because it only has 8 at max. But like just being able to stop something that wants to set up on you, especially something that you wouldn't immediately be able to kill with like a boosted move. But I think in terms of like VGC, and of course, guys, don't quote me on this. I don't play that much VGC. I just watch. I just really watch, and I play a little bit doubles when I feel like it. But I think it's a really cool thing. And also like on support Turtonator because it got Rapid Spin and Heavy Duty Boots obviously this generation. So there's some really, really cool options for those mons in particular. And I think one of the biggest things that I was actually overlooking here is the fact that Thievul now has a better move in its arsenal, right? Like if you look at Nasty Plow or anything like with Thievul, at the moment its only coverage is Dark Pulse, Psychic, and like Grass Knot. That's basically it. That's basically all Thievul has. So now having Burning Jealousy is just a way of adding to its actual coverage. So in general, I think it's really nice too, adding to its coverage. I also like it with like Chandelure. Somebody, again, the whole water type setting up in front of my face, or Terrakion trying to go for an SD because it can sweep in front of Chandelure just being able to burn it. So I like that. Same thing with I think Zoroark as well. Another mon that doesn't necessarily need Flamethrower to pick up the KOs, whereas if you try and set up in front of it, that'd be cool. So I like that. I really wish it was based on in general, because they have to have their stats boosted during the turn with a burn. So I really wish it was like in general, if they have stat boosted period, like if a Pokemon had already Dragon Dance as a guaranteed burn and it's 70 base power, I think that would make it a lot better. But I do like it. Next up we have Flip Turn. This is probably one of my favorite moves that was added. If you guys didn't know, Flip Turn is a physical water type U-turn. Why is this good? Well, there's a few really, really, really strong water types that we have that have access to this. One of them is Barraskewda. Now, if you guys don't know the way that rain works, right, at least from a singles aspect, right, in VGC, VGC has Polytone now, so they don't have to do this anymore, but in VGC, it had like Focus Sash Pelipper with like Tailwind type thing, and that was it. You were kind of like one dimension when it came to your Pelipper. I'm sure there were some examples of people doing different things, but Pelipper is no Polytone from what I've seen. From what I've seen and from my experience also playing with Polytone and VGC before. But in singles, the most common Pelipper is Damp Rock, or for rain teams. There was some inclusion of specs and whatnot too. But there's Damp Rock, Pelipper that runs U-Turn, Scald, Roost, and either Defog, Hurricane, whatever it wants to run there. One of the issues with rain teams is, much like any team that's reliant on weather, that you have to use your turns well, and Flip Turn just kind of like makes Barraskewda a Pokemon that's already so fast and already so strong that already has its speed doubled in rain, and also the fact that it already has rain boosted attacks. It makes it even better because if your opponent tries to play around your water moves, for example, they go Toxapex on the Liquidation, and then they go out into a Dark type on the Psychic Fangs or whatever it is, right? This completely stops that because you go for Flip Turn on a Pokemon that you can knock out, right? Especially because it's rain boosted. Yes, it's only 60 base power. I think they actually had to keep it this low. Even like 70 VP would be too much, in my opinion. But I think they had to keep it this low. But it's basically letting a Pokemon that's frail, like Barraskewda, get a hit out and switch the hell on out as it's attacking. So it's such a huge addition for Barraskewda because you're able to use your rain turns better. That's why Polytone is the superior in singles. In 66 singles, I should clarify. I don't know about battles about 3v3, but in 66 singles, Pelipper is superior to Polytoad because it's able to not only have reliable recovery and Roost, but it's able to get the rain and get on out of there with U-turns. So it actually can keep the rain flowing. Whereas with Polytoad, you have to hard switch unless you're running like eject button or whatever. And again, this is not VGC. We're not doing that. So that's amazing for Barraskewda because it lets it attack with a strong move and get on out of there. The other few mons that got it that were really big, Vaporeon. Vaporeon is pretty big. Obviously, it's a physical type attack, so it doesn't really benefit too much of Vaporeon special attack. But very similar to Teleport Clefable, Vaporeon can wish and now get those wishes safely instead of you having a hard switch or Baton Pass, because the Baton Pass is banned in the single in 66 singles. But now it can Flip Turn to get momentum, right? It has huge wishes that it can pass safely or safer now. So that's a big addition for Vaporeon and just balanced teams in general, or stall variants, or even offense where you don't want to lose momentum. Vaporeon can do that sort of thing. I've been using it on even the 3v3 ladder with Vaporeon. Rillaboom. Rillaboom obviously comes in on the Pokemon that threaten Vaporeon, right? Like the electric type attacks or the grass type attacks. So Rillaboom doesn't care too much about that, right? So being able to get it in and just get on out of there. So Flip Turn is so big on that Pokemon too. And just allows you to pass those strong wishes and keep a momentum with Vaporeon without losing momentum. And also if you're like, oh man, I can lose if they switch right now to Gyarados as I go for wish with my Vaporeon because they have Power Whip or whatever. No, I just Flip Turn the hell out of there. Other few mons that really I think benefit from this. I know Barraskewda, not Barraskewda. Well, budget Barraskewda. Barraskewda is basically what Basculin Wisher was. But that's not to say that Basculin is not a threat in the lower tiers. Basculin was banned from the PU tier. So Basculin is a mon that has adaptability, if you guys didn't know, and one of the ways that people were able to deal with it, I remember when I played PU for a little bit, one of the ways I was able to deal with it is, okay, it's locked, it gets a kill with Liquidation, right? It gets a kill with its water move, and then I bring out my mon and I revenge kill it. But I mean, when you take that out, right, when it doesn't have to stay in when it attacks, it's so big, especially coming off an adaptability Pokemon. I think it's pretty cool for Gigalgy as well, especially because you really only need Draco Meteor, Sludge Wave, and Focus Blast when it comes to Gigalgy, especially if you use like a Specs variant or just a more offensive variant that's not necessarily Toxic Spikes. And obviously they lost Hidden Power Fire, which was pretty big for like Ferrothorn and things like that, but you have Focus Blast still. So I think that's going to be a pretty cool thing, specifically in draft. Same thing with Keldeo. Keldeo is more so going to be a special attacker, attacking and combining and doing things like that. But specifically in draft, again, keeping up momentum. I think it's really nice on Sharpedo too, especially like because Sharpedo got a few new toys as well with Close Combat. Close Combat's a big thing, allowing it to 2-hit KO Ferrothorn with ease without it needing to be, you know, like Mega Sharpedo and crunching, because Mega Sharpedo doesn't currently exist. Who knows what's going to happen with that? It'd be cool if it comes back. I hope they do come back, but we'll see. But I really like that, because even on a banded Sharpedo, you can just flip turn when they bring in their Toxapex, and then you get a Magnezone, or they bring in their Rotom Wash, and you get in your Kingdra to Draco Meteor. Kingdra also got it, but I don't know how much I'll use it on Kingdra, because Kingdra also got Hurricane, and like on a rain team specifically, I think that Barraskewda benefits the most from this, because you get in Kingdra on the Pokemon that can resist the water move that Barraskewda just went for, and then you drop a Draco, you go for Hurricane or anything like that. Other mons that we see right here, Golduck, Mew already had U-Turn and Volt Switch. Blastoise is really interesting on support Blastoise. I think that's another draft mon that can be pretty cool. So Blastoise not only has Shell Smash this generation, but can now Flip Turn too. So I love that, because you can like Rapid Spin, Flip Turn, Scald, Toxic if you bring it from a previous generation type of thing. So Refresh, well, I don't think Refresh is in the game, but like Toxic from a previous generation could be pretty cool. So that's nice. Seaking can also do the whole Swift Swim thing, but it also got Swords Dance this generation. That's better, and I think it's good. I don't think it's that good, like in terms of that. Maybe in lower tier rain it could be nasty with that, but yeah. And Milotic got Flip Turn too. Again, this is all like Milotic, Starmie, Blastoise. I feel like these are all like really big for draft, because passive Pokemon like Milotic, for instance, can potentially let Pokemon set up, even if it has Haze, like you get knocked off, you get taunted, you do this, but in order to not become setup fodder, like much like Clefable can teleport out, Milotic can now Flip Turn out. But yeah, Starmie, defensive Starmie, with like Flip Turn, Recover, Thunder Wave, and anything like that. Like it does also get teleport now, if I'm not mistaken. But on defensive Starmie, it could be pretty cool too. I want to know your thoughts on that. And then on the bottom, we have Clawitzer, which could run that over U-Turn. There were some variations of Clawitzer that did run U-Turn. I personally think it's better just to attack, especially for specs. Primarina, I think, has too many moves that it wants, but again, in a draft league, maybe like an Assault Vest variant could be cool, with like Moonblast, Scald, Psychic or Energy Ball, depending on what coverage you need based on your opponent's team, and then Flip Turn. But Wishy-Washy, I think this is pretty nice in it too, because Wishy-Washy, it don't look like much right there, but when it's schooling, this Pokemon, and forget my voice, I'm not sick anymore, but I just lost my voice during the 80-hour marathon I did with A-Drive. But when it's schooling, it hits hard. And it does use U-Turn as well, so this is pretty big, I think, for that Pokemon. So next up, we have Rising Voltage. And this move is strong. This move, the user attacks with electric voltage rising from the ground. This move's power doubles with the target when the target is on electric terrain. So basically, what this says is that it's not when you're on electric terrain this move doubles, it's when the target is on electric terrain. So for example, I have electric terrain up, and my opponent is a Dragapult. Dragapult is touching the ground. Believe it or not, it's touching the ground, right? It doesn't have Levitate, it's not a flying type, so it is touching the ground, which means that my move is now 140 base power instead of 70 base power. That is not counting the electric terrain boost. That is not counting the stab boost that it has. So this is an incredibly strong move. It's like a special Bolt Beak type of thing. Speaking of Bolt Beak, look at Dracozolt right there that gets it. But some Pokemon that take huge advantage of this, in my opinion, Alolan Raichu is a big one. I think it actually makes electric terrain teams a lot more scary. I think it makes electric terrain teams like just things that like go off that. Like obviously now we don't have Tapu Koko. We don't have Tapu Koko. If Tapu Koko gets this, oh my gosh. But oh, wow, that is actually very scary. But we don't have Tapu Koko right now. But like Alolan Raichu has fantastic coverage with Psychic, Electric, and is fighting it. It's grass. It is water coverage. So making even like a Specs one very scary too. Compare well with Hawlucha, right? You can do like Lucha, Pincurchin, and Raichu with like an Electric Seed, Hawlucha. Magneton as well, just in lower tiers. I don't think it's a bad move, but like when Koko comes back, it'd be a little bit better. The other mons that come to mind, like I'm seeing a whole lot of things, but other mons that come to mind, just defensively, Pincurchin. You've now given Pincurchin a 140 base power move that I can use, and the reason I say Pincurchin over, like, you know, obviously better electric types like Zeraora or Magnezone, and they are better electric types, or the Rotoms, is because Pincurchin already sets the standard of what this needs to be, right? It already sets up electric terrain. So I think Rising Voltage is pretty big on mons like Raichu, on mons like Pincurchin. And I also think that when it comes to draft, it makes Pincurchin an even bigger value pick. It's a special type attack, so I don't think it boosts Caparage too much. And obviously Dracozolt and Artizolt get stab on this move, but I don't think it affects them too much. And just any electric being paired, like all of them, I love this. I love that it just says that the target has to be touching terrain, not you. So previously, the Rotom forms, Vikavolt, any electric type that levitated, that was not touching the ground, was not, or Emolga, because it's the flying type, we're not able to get the effects of electric terrain simply because it's not like Sun. Electric terrain, you have to be touching the electric terrain. I just put my foot down, but you have to be touching the electric terrain in order to get the benefits of it. But those are, even though they still don't get the benefits of electric terrain, they get the benefits of rising voltage as long as they're attacking a target that is on the ground. So as long as their target isn't something with levitate or something that's flying type, which I mean, why would a Pokemon that's a flying type come in on an electric type Pokemon anyway, unless it's like Landorus, which that isn't even back in the metagame yet. It benefits them. So I think that's nice. And I think that makes Pincurchin another value pick, maybe something to be scary. But as we get closer and closer to expanding Force, I'm excited to talk about it. But yeah, let me know your guys' thoughts on that as well. Next up, we have Grassy Glide, one of my favorite additions as well for the Pokemon Sword and Shield metagame. So, gliding on the ground, the user targets the target. The user attacks the target. This move always goes first on grassy terrain. So, it's 70 base power, physical move that always goes first on grassy terrain. So, I believe that's 1.3 times boosted now because they nerfed it. So, what is that? 91 base power. Yeah, it's 91 base power. It's basically extreme speed, right? It's stronger than extreme speed because it's 91 base power in terrain, not counting the fact that you have, it's basically a first impression, right? It's 1 point stronger than first impression, but not counting the fact that the Pokemon all using this, what do they have in common besides, I guess, Double, Sirfetch, and Mew? They're all grass types, right? Is there anything else I'm missing? I'm sure there's something here. They're all grass types, right? So they all get stab on this as well. So it becomes even stronger. And this is huge for Pokemon like Swords Dance Rillaboom and Bandit Rillaboom. Let me give you guys a calc. Choice Band Adamant Choice Band Grassy Glide, and obviously Electric Terrain to Kingdra does 85% to 101%. To Gyarados does 87% to 103%. Some of the ending point might be off, but I know the starting point is like that. That's crazy as well for like the rain matchup. I think this might be the generation where we see Rillaboom in OU. And I know it's the same generation from when it came out, but I think it might be the time that we see Rillaboom in OU. Other mons that have here, right? You have Swords Dance Dhelmise. This is something that can abuse that too. And obviously Rillaboom is something that has grassy terrain, but you know there's baby versions of it too that have it too, right? Thwacky can now be a lower valued pick as well that can set up grassy terrain for other members. Grookey too, and obviously we'll have Bulu coming back eventually. But this is so nice because a lot of times, like even versus like rain matches, for instance, like you don't want Kingdra firing off Hurricanes or Draco Meteors versus your Pokemon. But this is so cool just to give all of them priority. I absolutely love it. I love that Virizion has priority. I love that a Bomb Snow has more than just Ice Shard. It definitely is a game-changing move, and it's cool for like Pokemon like Zeraora or like even like a Rotom form, right? Like a 30% Rotom form from like Choice Band Rillaboom dies if it's not invested or whatever to Grassy Glide. I've done 27% to Volcarona. On a 4 times resist, right? Like I was able to knock out a Volcarona with my Rillaboom in the recent Showdown Live, and it just gives them all priority, and it's physical. So the ones it affects the most are obviously Rillaboom. I guess Double to an extent. Like it's not priority on Double prior, but it also gets double coverage with Grass. But I don't think that matters too much because it's more of a body pressure than anything else. But it does have Swords Dance, so don't sleep. And then Flapple. Oh. Let's talk about doubles for a second. Flapple, if you're not using the what's it called? If you're not using Gigantamax Flapple, you're using potentially. Oh, did I talk about VGC? Oh, one thing to know in VGC. Sorry, to go back to Rising Voltage. One thing to know about VGC is that fact that obviously you can set up electric terrain. My bad. So that's something to note when it came to that. Same thing with just electric terrain. So like in VGC, you can set grassy terrain, obviously, by going for any grass type attack. So any Pokemon with grass type coverage, you can set up grassy terrain. One thing with Flapple, if it Dynamax instead of Gigantamax, is Max Overgrowth does set terrain. So outside of that, you can have a priority move that's hustle boosted and whatnot that can still do damage. So I really, really like that. Gourgeist getting priority is pretty cool too. I love adding to its arsenal. And yeah, let's honestly just keep going. I think that's pretty neat. I also believe that Silvally Electric got banned from PU. I don't know if that had anything to do with Rising Voltage, but I know it recently got banned from PU, and I hope Pincurchin plus Silvally Electric is something you could have ran. But Triple Axel. So Triple Axel is interesting because it's a physical ice type attack. that has 90% accuracy, excuse me, and every single one of them has a chance to miss, right? So every single one is 90%. If you miss one of them, like if I hit my first one, the move can end right there. But if it doesn't miss, it's 120 base power because it's 20, 40, and 60. So that's 120 base power. They give this move to Weavile. Huge addition to Weavile. If it actually connects, that not to mention stab, this move is way stronger than Ice Crash if it does connect. Just to give you guys a calc, +2 Weavile. With Swords Dance, obviously, and Turbo Axel does like almost 90% to your Shifu, the water type one, and that's a resist that has like a 100 base HP, 100 base defense, so just something to keep in mind. A few other mons that got Triple Axel that kind of benefit from it. Hitmontop has Technician plus Triple Axel, so that's a sick one. I think Hitmontop actually recently got banned from PU as well after the DSC. I don't know if it was just Triple Axel, but there might have been some other stuff that actually got it banned, but Hitmontop just got banned from PU. Serena now has ice coverage, which I think is pretty cool. So it doesn't have to U-turn out or high jump kick to hit those grass types. And I think that's really nice with its addition of the rapid spin buff of having the speed boost, knock off to get rid of items, high jump kick just for steals in general. I like that my Milotic got Triple Axel, and let me explain why. For years, I wanted to use a physical Milotic that didn't suck, right? People have used Coil, and then this generation they gave Milotic Dragon Dance. So now, whew, what's stopping me from using Dragon Dance, Water Move, plus Ice Move Milotic, any water type in the game? But ignoring those, I really think this is a pretty cool addition to Milotic, and it actually makes it that much more valuable of a draft pick, in my opinion, because it has a physical one. Cinchino got this as well, and this is so good because it has Technician too, so it just gives it, I mean, it's another one that's walled by steals, but it's just so powerful. And Ice is good offensive, like Ice is just a good offensive move. That's why Mamoswine is so good, because Ice plus Ground is so good. That's why Weavile's so good, because Ice plus Dark is so good. Obviously they have the other things going for them too, but I love they got access to that. Sneasel in lower tiers looks pretty nasty and devastating with this. I think I'd rather still run Icicle Crash on a Alolan Sandslash if I run it. Frostlass is physical, special, excuse me, usually, but Triple Axe could still be good for that too. It doesn't really affect Frostmoth too much, but I think the biggest takeaways are definitely Serena, Cinchino, Weavile, to a lesser extent, obviously the Milotic, and then Hitmontop, and then Sneasel. I'm not going to use it with Hustle Delibird. I'm sorry. It already misses enough as it is. The other ones are special attackers, don't really care too much. Mew can just Ice Punch. I mean, a few of them can Ice Punch too. Like Lopunny got also U-turn and close combat in this. So if Mega Lopunny ever comes back, if you want to use Triple Axel, go for it. It'll do a lot more than Ice Punch to Landorus when that eventually comes back too. If you land your attacks, and Gallade also has Ice Punch, but I think it's better with just Swords Dance +2. It's not stab on that, it's not Technician boosted, but still a really nice physical addition, and it's just so powerful when it hits, man, because it's 20 base power, then it's 40 base power, then 60 base power, as far as we know. Coaching, this is more of targeted towards VGC. Right, the user properly coaches ally Pokemon, boosting their attacks and defense stats. So basically, you're giving your ally a bulk up, and I'm sure there's so many things you could do with this, right? Like giving Dragapult a bulk up, giving Incineroar a bulk up, right? Raising attack and its defense, and your opponent only has physical mons to deal with it, right? So here's all the Pokemon that can learn that. Giving your Shifu a bulk up, right, with something paired next to it. It's pretty big because your Shifu will be allowed, I believe, in VGC, but this doesn't really pertain too much to singles. Doesn't really pertain too much to singles, but imagine just boosting a Terrakion, especially because Terrakion's back now in VGC 2. That stuff sounds nasty, man. And not only on top of that, but they could Dynamax after in that metagame. Disgusting, absolutely disgusting. So I absolutely love that. And obviously, like Cinderace and things like that get it too. So I'm excited to see how people, if people even use this when it comes down to it. I'm sure Guido Sweetie will also do something when it comes to this. One other thing that also comes to mind with this is, I don't know if it says boosting their its ally Pokemon, boosting their attack and defense. I don't know if it's like Decorate, where if you use it in a singles metagame, you can buff your opponent, because then you can do things like with Ditto and Imposter them after you go down and then try and reverse sweep them. I've tried that with Decorate. I've done it with Decorate. It's bad, but I mean, it's fun at the end of the day, and that's what I like about Pokemon. I like having fun. I like winning too, but I like having fun while I do it, right? If I didn't, I just use Stall all the time. Well, I mean, I have fun with Stall too. I should take that back. But Corrosive Gas. So this is the one I'm a little bit sad about. It's still good, but I'm a little bit sad about that because when the leaks were out, this was the one that talked a little bit like, oh man, it's basically corrosion for a move. Get the hell out of here. No, it's not at all. It is not at all. This user surrounds everything around it with highly acidic gas and melts away items they hold. It's a poison type knockoff. I don't even know if it affects Steel types, by the way, because I've only been I've had it used versus me in the game, but I haven't tested it with that, and I'm not going to trust Showdown. It's also a poison type attack, so I don't ever know. But I mean, it would make sense why we thought Corrosive Gas was like Corrosion. But I think this is pretty cool in doubles, getting rid of your opponent's items, and we have some good Pokemon that could do it, like Gengar, Weezing, or some that come to mind. And then also, I think in Draft League, it's really nasty. Skuntank currently lacks knockoff, unfortunately. So just being able to do, a Pokemon comes in on it that's trying to wall, even like Toxapex, get rid of their item, really nice. Both Weezings, being able to do that. So I think in Draft, where items are like the biggest thing, like, for text for catching your opponent or having a Rocky Helmet so that way you don't lose to Melmetal type of thing, I like that. It's just basically giving the poison types knockoff, and there's not a lot of Pokemon that actually learn it, as you can see right here. Very little that actually learn it, but still, pretty cool. Pretty cool. Tentacruel has knockoff, so I probably wouldn't use it on that. Mew, I don't know if I'd use it on Mew. I can literally knock off Mew if I wanted to as well. And same thing with Toxicroak. But Garbodor could be cool, though it spike stack and everything like that. Not the biggest of it. It sucks, man, that this move was not basically toxic. I don't mind if it be this weekly distributed. Like, this is a very low distribution, like right here, right? I think it'd be busted, though, if Mew could be able to poison steel types. That would be absolutely busted. So let's take Mew out of the equation. But if it was like just this distribution, I think it'd be okay. If it was just like Corrosion, but I guess they're not going to take away, at least right now, Salazzle's main thing, if not only thing. Scorching Sands is hype. It is basically a ground type Scald. It is a ground type Scald, so it can burn the opponent. It is a special type attack. It's 70 base power, and yeah, it's I like it. I like it a lot. It's pretty cool because it now gives these not only ground types, but they give it to a lot of fire types, right? So hold up, let me just type something real quick so I can just make sure I know. Is this also, yeah, 30% chance, perfect. So 30% chance of burning. I just wanted to make sure it was. So it's a special type attack. So if you look at, let's look at the ground types first before we look at the, obviously the fire types that get it that I think are pretty cool. But the ground types that really make the most use of this in terms of special attackers are Flygon and Palisade. Palisade, I think, is pretty big. It doesn't have to run Earth Power. I can just Scorching Sand. So now I can run something like Stealth Rock, Shore Up, Scorching Sand, and Shadow Ball, or you can run Toxic somewhere in that metagame. Claydol is another one that could do that, so it can actually like not be passive and actually burn like a Grass type or a Water type coming in. So I really like that. Same thing with Flygon. You can run special sets with that too. Outside of that, if you wanted to run it just as like a support move, Colossal is obviously not a ground type, but if you want to run as a support move on Colossal, I think that'd be pretty cool. Same thing with a support move on Turtonator. Also, just giving Turtonator and a lot of Pokemon, like for example Charizard, a ground type special attack is pretty big. They were lacking that, right? They were lacking that. I don't know how much it matters with Reshiram because it gets Earth Power, but I guess being able to burn, I mean, a Blue Flare too. But like on Charizard, when Heat Rain eventually comes back, yeah, that's cool. Same thing with like being able to hit Toxapex for a 2-KO with respect, and the Sun with like Solar Power. But I mean, you can do the same thing with Flamethrower. On defensive Arcanine, I really like this because it's Arcanine doesn't have Lava Plume. I think one thing that would make a lot of fire types better if Lava Plume was more widely distributed, because then they'd run that over this. But just giving Arcanine a way of hitting opposing fire types, and like Pokemon like Heat Rain is really big too. So Arcanine can run special or physical. Mew, I mean, if you want to be wild with your Marowak, Torkoal that's really nice, but Torkoal does get Earth Power, but still being able to burn with not only that plus Lava Plume is really nice too. If you want to run like a Jank Hippowdon that doesn't really take advantage of its physical attack, but decides to do that with special, I can see something with Slack Off and that being cool. Heatmore, again, good coverage added to it. Same thing with Sunscorch, very good coverage added to it. And then like Cinderace could do it, but I mean, doesn't have the best special attack, really low special attack. And I think Diggersby and Incineroar don't really want to do that too much, but at least in Incineroar's case, like Incineroar has very passable special attack at base 80, so it's not the worst thing in the world. But I do think that this had been physical. Oh my gosh, y'all think of this to Landorus? If they give this to Landorus when Landorus comes back, that's it. That's it, bro. Just imagine, man. What are your Landers at? Just let me burn you. Like, who cares if you go out to your ground immunity? Landers can knock off and U-turn anyway. It's not like having a ground immunity made you beat Landers guaranteed. So I really like that. I think it's also a really nice support option on the more defensive grounds. And I'm excited to see how the metagame shapes around this, especially, we're only like a week into everything being released and things are being banned left and right. And I'm using new teams every day, and I feel like other people are too. So it's pretty cool to see how this affects it. Dual Wingbeat. Woo! That is 80 base power. 80 base power, not Brave Bird, but it's an 80 base power physical flying type attack. Now, there's like 2 Pokemon this specifically benefits the most. I'll talk about number 1, Scyther. Scyther. With Technician, Scyther has 120 base power. It's basically Brave Bird. It's Brave Bird. Not to mention the addition of the heavy-duty boots. This gives Scyther a way of coming in without worrying about hazards. And I also think that people are going to be like sleeving, especially like in lower tiers. I feel like Scyther can also get away with a Violet too. Shout out to Gravel, who actually brought this to me, and then I played a little bit of the lower tiers. But a lot of people are like, when they see Scyther, they are not always getting rocks because they assume heavy-duty boots. But Scyther is a Pokemon that can definitely abuse this. Previously, Scyther only had Technician, boosted Aerial Ace, or Wing Attack. This is stronger. Obviously, this does have a chance to miss, so there's something to keep that in mind. But if you connect, it is incredibly strong, even on Choice Band variants. And then there's a whole bunch of other Pokemon that get it. But if we go through the list, I mean, Scizor can do it too, with like a very strong, like Flying type stab is not bad at all. In fact, one thing that Scizor did back in Black and White was Swords Dance Acrobatics with a Flying Gem as an attempt to break through Jellicent and other Pokemon in general, which is good neutral versus opposing Scizor and grass types and things in general if you didn't have X Scissors. It's just a strong move, right? So that was one thing that Scizor did. Obviously, we didn't have a stronger knockoff. Back then, knockoff was very weak, so it wasn't a way of dealing with it, but we don't have gems anymore, too. But that could be pretty cool. I think that the other Mons that get this, maybe Talonflame if it doesn't want to use Acrobatics or if it doesn't want to use Brave Bird, but a lot of these Mons already get Brave Bird. Literally, like, all these Mons get Brave Bird, for the most, like, the ones that are, like, at least flying, like, right, like Corviknight, Lucha, Talonflame, the big ones that come to mind. And the others are not so good at being physical attackers. Pheasant just got Brave Bird. I know it's not going to give that up for missing an attack, right? And a lot of them are just not physical attackers anyway. Celebi gets this thing, which is really interesting. So that could be a pretty cool, like a physical Celebi set. That, like, if your opponent, especially in, again, I'm talking about draft, but or if you're in a Dynamax metagame where you can use this to now boost Celebi's speed. I don't know if Celebi was actually able to use that before. If Celebi had any flying type attacks, this might be its first flying type attack. Let me check real quick on Showdown. I don't want you guys to say, oh, Celebi had this. Actually, I do want you guys to say that. I don't mind. But let me just look at Celebi real quick. So, again, in like a Dynamax metagame, does Celebi have any flying type attacks? Scrolling. I only see, it did get Aerial Ace before. Okay, so it had Aerial Ace before. It's so weak. But like, this one is just, it's stronger than Aerial Ace. Obviously, without Technician, it's not like Brave Bird levels, but it's stronger than Aerial Ace. That could be a pretty cool addition, and just giving Pokemon that might not have had a flying type attack before a max air skin, but I think a lot of these had access to it. And even then, like the ones that don't or didn't use it don't really care. Maybe Emolga. Like Emolga kind of sucks, right? Like it's up there with like Emolga's up there with like, you know, big plus on Minum. And by I mean big, I mean small. I mean very bad. But even then, like Emolga probably rather run like no item acrobatics than that, right? So I don't think it's the hugest addition. I think a lot of the Mons that want a Brave Bird, just to, you know, to wrap it up, I think that a lot of the Mons that want a Brave Bird will Brave Bird, but giving Scyther this strong of an attack, especially when it has Technician, when it has such high speed, like Scyther hits 339 speed at level 100 with a Jolly Nature or any plus speed nature. Super fast, right? And then it also has Swords Dancing. And if you didn't know about Scyther, Scyther was a Gen 1 Pokemon. And unlike a lot of other Gen 1 Pokemon, Scyther actually had amazing stats. 110 attack, 80 defense, 80 special defense, 105 speed. Like what? Because Scyther originally did not evolve. So, yeah, them giving this, sick. Swords Dance knockoff. I know one of the sets that's being read right now is dual Wingbeat knockoff U-turn Swords Dance type of thing with like heavy duty boots. And also a Violet sets can run Roost on that thing. Such a cool addition to Scyther. But the other Mons, most of them are Brave Bird. If I'm missing anything here, please let me know. But when it comes to singles, I think that's about it. Like, I mean, the Surfetch would rather Brave Bird for guaranteed damage. And it's stronger. All right, Expanding Force. Woof! This move. I just want to tell you guys right now, as of right now, Indeedee Male has been banned from RU, and Indeedee Female has been banned from NU. It is crazy. It is crazy how much a move can do. It is insane. Like, just to read what Expanding Force does. The user attacks the target with its psychic power. The move's power goes up and damages all opposing Pokemon on psychic terrain. So, if psychic terrain is in effect, the move gets an increased bonus of 2 times from the terrain instead of the 1.3 times usual bonus. So, This is pretty big because Specs and DD and even Scarf just become deadly because they set up the terrain for themselves and start clicking moves. Imagine Lele with this move, man. I saw like a Steelix take like 80% from an expanding force. Now, I think it wasn't coded right, but at this point, it's pretty crazy. And also the fact that in doubles, it targets both Pokemon. So I know in DD looks very strong and already has some cool things like Follow Me and Helping Hand and Ally Switch and all that stuff. So that's a pretty big addition to this Pokemon. For that, and just in general, I think that like it's a good move, especially if you have Psychic Terrain up, especially if you're using a max metagame too, where you can max Psychic, or like in a draft league that they have Dynamax moves allowed, being able to just max Psychic with or max Expanding Force with your Jirachi, you still get up the terrain after, and then you can click Expanding Force to be even stronger move. So very, very, very strong addition for Pokemon like that. For Hatterene, Hatterene next to Indeedee sounds very nasty in like a doubles type of format. I'm sure it's not like the best thing, but sounds very nasty. And I think all Psychic types just get so much better because this move becomes so incredibly, incredibly strong. And I've even seen like Indeedee plus Alakazam with Expanding Force. So you have a Terrain Extender, you run a Choice Specs, and then Alakazam comes in. Alakazam just got access to Nasty Plot, and you're able to boost through with that. So this is one of my favorite new moves. This and Flip Turn, easily my favorite new moves, but that's the one that says above PDI. So again, inside terrain is in effect and the user is grounded upon its execution. So that's another thing. Power up and advantage all opponents on Psychic Terrain. So it has to be grounded, which means it has to be effective in Psychic Terrain. This move gets an increased bonus of 2 times for the terrain instead of the usual 1.2 boost. Yeah, 1.3 boost. So that's big. Very big, and I think a lot of Pokemon can abuse that too, especially because again in Battle Stadium 3v3 or 6v6 or Battle Stadium doubles whatever. I think it's a big addition, and those any Psychic type that can abuse this, Indeedee specifically, just being able to set its own terrain. Just imagine when Tapu Lele comes out, guys. Imagine that. Specs expanding force. Like forget Specs Psychic, Specs Psyshock, man. Just click Expanding Force. That's all you need. That is absolutely all you need. So next up we have Skitter Smack, and I honestly think that. So this is a physical bug type attack that lowers the target's special attack. I'm not a big fan of this move, right? I don't think it actually has much case in singles. Lowering the special attack could be cool, I guess. Maybe like a bulk up Buzzwole when that thing comes back. I don't know. It just doesn't seem that good. It really doesn't seem that good. Like honestly, lowering the special attack maybe on like a coil type of set, like sure, like on the coil Sandaconda right there could be cool, or like anything like that. I don't think Volcarona will ever give a move for it. Durant first impression and maybe I might give this up like Exeter for this, but Durant first impression, you're gonna click that most of the time anyway. The fact that it's physical makes a big difference too, I think. I guess, and the fact that it's 90% accurate, like, right? Why would I use this over Struggle Bug when it comes to VGC? Struggle Bug just sounds better when it comes to VGC. This is only 70 base power too and 90% accurate. Let me look up Struggle Bug real quick because I've used it, but I've never really known too much about it. Struggle Bug, Bulbapedia. Again, we're just freeforming this up. I know it hits. Yeah, it's 100% accurate. It touches everybody, and it lowers the special attack by 1 stage. And it's also 50 base power. So, like, why would I use that over a 70 base power physical one that I'm not even sure if it hits both of them? I'm not even sure currently at the moment because it didn't say that in the description that I'm looking at. It just says lower the target special attack. And, yeah, like, what? Like, all these bugs, rather use Bug Buzz or X-Scissor. I think that's a really bad move. Araquanid wants to use Lunge, right? Galajabot uses Liquid Leech Life and First Impression. I think this is probably the worst addition. Now, if this thing top cuts the world or something, cool. But outside of that, you gotta try and change my mind right here because I really think this is one of the worst additions. Skitter Smack being able to lower the special attack maybe for Mons that didn't currently have bug coverage. I guess this could be cool on a Pokemon like Dusclops. Like Dusclops, for instance, didn't have Struggle Bug. So it can now Skitter Smack. Man, why do they do this to Bug, bro? All you need to do is make a Bug type attack that ignores resistances. Make a 70 base power and make it always be neutral. That's it. That's what Skitter Smack should have been. I should have been smacking everybody like they're a cockroach. And just, that's it. I don't care if you're a steel type. I don't care if you're a fire type. I don't care if you're a flying type. Neutral. Now that would have been broken. That would have been straight up broken on Durant. That would have been broken on Center Scorch. specifically Durant, because Durant obviously has hustle and whatnot. But even on a Ninjask, man, that would have been cool. But besides that, I don't see a lot of good use for that. Let's keep going. We have Poltergeist, and this one is so cool. I said that so many times, but the user attacks the target by controlling the target's item. This move fails if the target doesn't have an item. So let me tell you how this works. First off, it's a 110 base power. We finally got a good ghost physical move, right? Unless you were Shadow, which had Spectral Thief, we didn't have any good ghost physical type attacks, right? We had Phantom Force, which was 2-turn. We had Shadow Force, which was 2-turn. We had Shadow Claw and Shadow Punch, which were both weak. That was it, right? When it comes to like Shadow Punch, yeah, I already said that, weak. But now, Poltergeist just means that the room can do it. It means that, well, the Decidueye also has Spirit Shackle, but that's like, that's a given. That's it. Delmise gets a good physical move. Golurk can Rock Posh now and use a good physical move. Same thing with Trevenant, man. Even the Choice Band sets and Rambats can run Poltergeist instead of Shadow Claw. And a few other mons that obviously appreciate this too. Dustclops and Dusknoir, man, it's been like 300 years. The mons finally get some good physical moves. And obviously, of course, Alolan Marowak is another mon that comes to mind. The cool thing about this move is that it not only your opponent has to have an item, so be careful if you knock off your opponent, because you can't do it. You won't get any damage. It obviously has 90% accurate. It's only 8 PP, so I mean, we get what we get, right? But and then Gourgeist getting this is pretty cool too. I think Gourgeist actually recently got banned too. I think Gourgeist got banned from the PU tier, if I'm not mistaken. So that's just another mon to note that got banned. And I'm assuming the additions just kind of pushed it over to the edge. But the fact that it not only attacks them and does damage, but it tells me their item is so... so if I go for like a... Let's say I'm a Dustclops, right? And my opponent goes into like a physically defensive Corviknight. I don't know their item because we're playing Draft League. I go for Poltergeist. It tells me I attack them with the Jabalka Berry. Jabalka Berry sucks, but I think it's so funny to say, so let me say it here. I attack them with the Jabalka Berry. This is a big thing because now I know they're running the Jabalka, and I don't have to worry about that. So that's a pretty big addition for a Pokemon like that. Obviously, Marshadow will still run Special Thief, but finally having a good physical Ghost type attack is great. Why did they not give it to Dragapult? Why is my Dragapult forced to run Phantom Force? Why? It already has Dragon Darts, which is incredible, right? It already has to run Steel Wing for Fairies. Why is it forced to run this? They should have given it to Poltergeist. I think it should have gave it Poltergeist. I'm glad that Poltergeist got Poltergeist, by the way. I would have been a little bit sad if it didn't, just, based on the name and whatnot. But a really cool physical addition to Ghost. We finally get this. Dustclops has been like... Dusknoir was OU in Gen 4, and for some reason it still is because they decided not to mess it up, like change things. But that mon sucked, man. And it never had a good physical move, right? You use Shadow Punch, you use Shadow Sneak. Shadow Sneak is fine, but... because, you're using that priority to pick off something. That's, that's what we're thinking it's used for. Or what I'm thinking you're probably using it for. It's not like you're actually using it to sweep. I'm thinking of Poltergeist. Oh my gosh. I finally got a good Ghost physical move. Meteor Beam! Alright. Basically, it's a 2-turn move. And the first turn it raises your special attack. The second turn it attacks with a rock type. This can be used with Power Herb. So you can do things like Power Herb. Jirachi having that over like Ancient Power. So somebody trying to set up with their Volcarona in your face. Power Herb, Meteor Beam them, blow them back. Lunatone is another mon that I think can abuse with the Power Herb. Outside of that, not too many. Starmie, what? You got Power Gem already. Yeah, not too many huge additions with this, I would say. Colossal is another one, though, that I think could Colossal can run physical or special. But I think that you'd rather Power Gem with the other ones. I guess if you're like Power Herb, Calm Mind, Necrozma, and you're using this to like blow back on Mandibuzz, maybe. But I do think that the biggest additions are probably like Rachi, Lunatone, and Colossal. The rest of them are all physical, and they'd rather not use this, right? Or they're just like Dracovish and Dracozolt and Arctovish and Arctozolt. And why would they use these? They're going to click Fish's Rend and Boltbeak. That's what they're going to do. So, I suppose giving Behem that type of coverage could be cool again in the Dynamax metagame as well. But I don't know. Maybe with like Follow Me, because I actually use Lunatone plus Follow Me in doubles, because I was playing some doubles. Because, people were giving me teams, so why not, right? So I was playing in-game, and I used, like, Follow Me plus Meteor Beam, and I got my special attack. I used the Power. If I hit them, it's a really strong attack, right? It's pretty good. But I didn't find it to be, like, better than anything. It would have been a lot better if what we thought it was originally when we heard of it is that it was just, like, a Rock-type Draco Meteor. Because if it could just, like, let's assume the same Pokemon get this, right? Like, right here. Being able to hit them with a Rock-type Draco, with Starmie, with Necrozma specifically, like a Rock-type Draco, it doesn't matter if you have a Dragon Man or a Dark-type. That's a strong move. And just being able to spam that, I think, would have been a lot better for this move. But it's all right. Power Herb at least lets you get rid of the charging turn, and you do get a special attack raise, so it is a boost with that. But not the best. Next up, Scale Shot. This one I actually haven't had the pleasure of using too much yet, but I have had people use it against me. The way Scale Shot works is the user attacks by shooting scales 2 to 5 turns, so it's a multi-hit move with 90 base accuracy. But I mean, if you hit the first one, it's gonna hit the rest. It's not like triple Axel that every single one has a chance to miss, as far as I know. This move boosts the user's speed stat but lowers its defense. So now you've given, just to give some Pokemon, you've given Sandaconda a way of boosting its speed without using like Max Airstream, Hurricane, whatever. You've given Como another tool in its arsenal with Dragoness. Not only that, but like, okay, so one way we revenge kill Pokemon that are like boosted, right? Let's say a Dragon Dance Pokemon. Typically we go out to a faster Scarfer. So let's say Como went for Belly Drum sub, it had Salac Berry, and you know, now I let something die and then I go out into my Infiltrator, Dragapult, which is Choice Scarf. I can beat every set, right? I just drop a Draco, I knock it out. But if I got off a Dragon Dance and then I went for Scale Shot, I boost my speed again. So this is a pretty big addition. Like, it makes revenge killing these mons harder. Same thing with Kingdra. Kingdra finally has a good physical dragon type attack. That's not, I wanted to get Dragon Dodge personally, but it's not Outrage. And the reason I'm excited about that is because obviously with fairy types, Outrage is not as good. You get locked in, then they just revenge kill you with Moonblast or whatever attack they decide to go. And the Kingdra has Liquidation, Dragon Dance, Dragon Scott. Yo, that's such a cool move, like when it comes to Kingdra. So I'm actually really excited to try out Kingdra more. Other mons that can abuse it, I guess Crocodile could also use the +1 speed, so you can use like Scale Shot, even like Bulk Up. I know obviously it has the defense drop, but even then, like Bulk Up would still raise your attack, right? Kyurem, having a cool one without Dragon Claw or anything, so that's nice. Druddigon, I like that. I've actually seen like a Home Claws Druddigon set with Scale Shot, so that's pretty cool. Get the speed raise as well. Obviously on Haxorus, this is also another big one too, being able to raise the speed while also attacking. Like even on a Choice Band set, like your Choice Band and you're raising your speed while doing it. So I think it's so sick as a move. And like when it comes to like Monotype, like in Monotype, Gyarados is sometimes Choice Scarf with Outrage, so it can revenge kill opposing dragons like in Dracovish and stuff. Being able to Dragon Dance and having this move that also raises your speed even more, I love it. Absolutely love it. So if you guys have actually made teams with this thing and tried it out, leave them on my Smokeground profile. My Smokeground profile name is AIM. I would absolutely love to see them. But this is such a cool addition. And it really changes the game because it just gives, not only does it give better dragon coverage to Pokemon like Kingdra, because Kingdra unfortunately doesn't get Dragon Claw because it wasn't born with arms. Though I guess, let me look up Dragon Claw real quick, because if we look up Dragon Claw, there's definitely some Pokemon that learn it that shouldn't be able to. Let me filter this out real quick, just look it out. Man, Kira barely got stubby arms, but it does have arms. So I think a lot of the mons that got Dragon Claw, I'm looking at them, they all seem to have arms, so they all seem to have claws, so that may even make sense, right? Kingdra was not blessed. Kingdra was not blessed to have arms. Yeah, it was not. It's a seahorse. So yeah, I'm just looking at Dragon Claw, going through it all. Yeah, even like Electros, they all have arms. So yeah, whatever. And then it goes into cat Pokemon. The Kingdra finally has a move it can click that not only makes it better, but it doesn't have to be locked in. I love that. Cool for my loader too. I guess on Dragon Dance, that's pretty cool too. I would even use that. But yeah, I love that. Let's keep going. We got 3 more. Lash Out. Now Lash Out, this move is busted right now on Showdown, by the way. It's bugged on Showdown. The way it works on Showdown is that like when you have any damage drops, like for example on turn 21 of a game, the Scrafty close combated my Mon, and I doubled into my Scyther, and I doubled into my Gallade, expecting someone to come in, and Lash Out killed me. It wasn't supposed to be 150 base power. The way this works is the user lashes out to vent its frustration toward the target. If its stats were lowered during that turn, the power of this move is doubled. So if a user's stats were lowered during that turn, the power of this move is doubled. So basically, if your stats got lowered by like Bulldoze or like whatever, you got dropped or they hit you with a maximum. I think that in VGC this could be pretty cool with like Tyranitar. If they hit you with like any attack that can lower attack, maybe like the one that's coming to mind right now is like the Max Whirlwind, but that's going to lower your attack anyway. But it's a 75 base power type of thing. If they hit you with that, right? If they hit you with a Bulldoze. Let's say you have something with Bulldoze spam next to it, right? Your Lash Out becomes 150 base power. So that's such a cool attack. I know some people have been teching like weak armor Mandibuzz in singles, whereas you get hit with U-turn and then obviously it lowers your stats, and then you hit them with a Lash Out after, which is 150 base power. This one is a little bit tough though, because it has to have their stats lowered during the turn, right? Like So if they went, for example, if I had Sticky Web up and my stat was lowered, like the turn I switched into them on, it doesn't really make a difference, right? Because that's the turn before that I actually use Lash Out, so that doesn't make so much of a difference. So I think this is more of like a VGC type of thing because there are multiple moves that lower your stats, and there's also multiple strats that lower your stats as well. People can use Icy Wind, people can Icy Wind, like XD Gale Darkness. I don't know, actually people use that maybe like competitive Milotic, but like there's multiple max moves that can lower stats. So this is a big thing to be able to abuse that. And obviously there's also multiple Intimidate Pokemon, whereas right now we don't have too many Intimidate Pokemon. That's going to change when Landers comes back though. When Landers comes back, that will definitely change, and I think Lash Out is going to be crazy on dark types like Weavile or Darmanitan, and having it like, just in general, just dark types. Like Obstacle, and if Landers tries to come in, I hit them with a nice Lash Out. That's Guts boosted too. Unfortunate tag being lowered, but still, clean little addition. Clean little addition. More, I think, doubles oriented than it is in singles at the moment, because they, of course, Incineroar is like something in the max moves. Steel Roller is a physical 130 base power, 100% accurate move that destroys terrain, and it does, it has 100% accuracy, right? So, interesting. Again, terrain, besides like Indeedee and Pincurchin, I guess grassy terrain is pretty cool. This could be like a nice little cool thing with like a tech move on maybe Ferrothorn, if grassy terrain, and like when the Tapus actually come out, I think this would be a lot better. I think in VGC this can again cool, or like a battle spot in battle spot singles as well, battle stadium singles. This would be cool because again you can use max moves to actually have terrain. But I mean, like, I'd rather run Heavy Slam on Caparage. I'd rather run Double Iron Bash on Melmetal and whatnot. But just having that option to get rid of terrain, especially if in Draft League, right? I see my opponent has Pincurchin, I see they have Indeedee, I see they have Tapu Koko. Like, what did they do to this opponent? Why did they give them all the moves, right? But I see they have it. Being able to not only destroy the effects of terrain, but also hit them with a 130 base power attack. It's awesome, especially when the steel types to actually use it, right? Like Kling Clang, like Steelix, even Shift Gear and Magearna. But unfortunately, this move does fail otherwise. So they're not going to give you a 130 base power steel move that we can just spam all the time. I think that'd be way too powerful. But still, awesome. And I'm excited to see if people actually make use of this in Draft League, especially if you're fighting certain things. So, and I believe the last one we have is Misty Explosion. Now, Misty Explosion is also kind of a little bit disappointing. But basically, the user attacks everything around it and faints upon using this move. This move power is increased on Misty Terrain. I believe in Misty Terrain it's doubled to 200 base power, if I'm not mistaken. But let's look at the other. Let me look at it real quick on Bulbapedia, because that's what my belief was with it. It is, yeah, it's double to 200. So, I mean, it sucks that it's a 100 base power move that explodes, because we have Self-Destruct, which does that, right? And Self-Destruct is 200 base power, and then we have Explosion, which is 250 base power, right? Why is the first fairy type Explosion only 100? Now, granted, if it had been 200 and then they made it 400, obviously that'd be broken. But come on, man. Like, even 150, I think. 300 is still a lot. But, I mean, we had 500 base power Explosions back in the day when Explosion used to half your defense, So, whatever, man. Some of the coolest mons I think take advantage of this are anti-leads like Slurpuff. So one example I had is that Slurpuff is the type of Pokemon that can get up Sticky Web, right? And it has its Unburden, and you can Endeavor. So there's a situation right now, right? I have lead Slurpuff. They have Excadrill. They hit me with Iron Head. As it brings me down to my Focus Sash, I get up my Sticky Web. I'm not flinched. I get up my webs. But in the following turn, I can Endeavor them, sure, but they can hit me with Rapid Spin either way and get rid of my hazards, right? What can I do to keep my hazard up? I can Misty Explode. And if I Misty Explode, I block Rapid Spin and I get some damage off in the process. So that can be pretty cool. I'm sure like Magearna could probably abuse this too in terms of like a Trick Room variant and want to Misty Explode. I feel like exploding your Magearna kind of sucks. And I would rather use regular Explosion anyway because it actually nukes something like Volcarona. But it's still an option. Sylveon having the option to blow up is pretty cool too. And I think that Hatterene being able to get a Trick Room, again, very similar. Being able to get a Trick Room and also exploding too. Same thing with Fable. Like, I think just like the Trick Room option and being able to explode is awesome. I guess Gardevoir can abuse it in terrain too. Especially when Tapu Fini comes out, man. Again, I think a lot of these are more dependent on when the Tapus come out when it comes to singles. But and in VGC, who knows? could be a pretty cool option. But it just sucks that this move is so weak prior, right? Like prior to everything, this move is incredibly weak at 100 base power, and I'm exploding my home Pokemon to do it. But I do think in terms of, like I said, OU successfulness, it makes Slurpuff a lot better as a Weber. Actually gives it like a +1 to Rabombi, which Rabombi, the pros of that is that it had U-turn, it has defog, and it also has like stun sport too, so it could do something. Whereas, yeah, Slurpuff had Endeavor, but you can just recover stall with your Toxapex till it's gone. It's only APP. But now I can get up my Sticky Web and I can boom. So this gives Hyper Offense a new toy. And again, Musharna, anyone that can Trick Room here and do something and explode could be pretty cool because it can get in, it can block hazards, it can block defog, and be able to do that. So we have a lot of Trick Room mons here, obviously, like Musharna, Magirna, Gardevoir. A lot of these mons learn Trick Room. I don't know if that's something I want to use on Weezing, because Weezing doesn't learn Trick Room, but Weezing has Misty Terrain, though. So, who knows? Who knows? Maybe I'll use Choice Specs Weezing with Misty Terrain, and I'll just boom, right? I think that's the strongest one we could have right here, besides, like, outright, without having to use, like, any other move, right? Like, Sylveon could obviously have a stronger one with special attack set and all that stuff, but maybe a Misty Terrain Specs Weezing could be really fun, or even just in general, just be cool. So in draft as well. But yeah, guys, let me know your thoughts on all the moves. Shout out to Pedro, obviously, for all the cool graphics we have, and whatnot. He's my boy. Leave a like, subscribe. I would love to know your thoughts. I know some of them I definitely went over a little bit faster, and some of them maybe I judged a little bit too harshly. But I really feel like Skitter Smack is bad. That's my thought process, though. I will see you guys next time. Have a great one. Subscribe. I'll see you guys later today with a Showdown Live, or later tomorrow, depending on what time this goes up. Peace.